The State Department says that 5 Americans were wounded inside the Westgate Mall. An al-Shabab spokesman this morning is denying reports that some of the Nairobi attackers are Americans. Senior correspondent John Miller is a former deputy director of national intelligence. John, good morning.
Good morning.
Tell us about al-Shabab and what we know, and secondly, how big a threat are they?
Al-Shabab is a Somali-based terrorist group. It starts off growing out of the Islamic Courts movement. Al-Shabab begins in around 2006. By 2008, they're a designated terrorist group by the U.S. State Department. And then in 2010, there was a very interesting case that took us and the FBI by surprise, where you had a al-Shabab suicide bomber attack the Somali intelligence headquarters, and it turned out to be a U.S. citizen. That was a real eye-opener for us. It opened the investigation that led us to find that 15 or 20 Americans had found their way from cities from Minneapolis to Portland to join the group.
Is this a new phase in what they're trying to do?
Well, the turmoil in al-Shabab, Charlie, for the last couple of years has been, what are they? There's one faction that wanted to be a domestic group that would take over Somalia and bring Sharia law, but there's an entire other faction influenced heavily by al-Qaeda's headquarters that says that the group's mission is global jihad. And when you look at this attack today, which is not in Somalia, it's in Kenya, it's a terrorist attack on the economy and to kill and wound people. That seems to be that turn towards global jihad. You know, Nora, you'll remember we were sitting here last week, just a couple of days ago, talking about a story we broke here on the show that al-Shabab was trying to develop a chemical weapons capability. So this is a group on the move.
A group on the move, and yet this administration has said repeatedly that al-Qaeda has been decimated. So are they on the decline, or is a group like al-Shabab on the rise and a greater threat to U.S. citizens and others?
Well, it depends what you mean by al-Qaeda. What the administration refers to when they say al-Qaeda is they mean Osama bin Laden, Ayman al-Zawahiri, al-Qaeda Central Command's ability to launch an attack like this. The fact that these disparate groups, al-Shabab or the group in Benghazi, have to act in the name of al-Qaeda shows al-Qaeda's core capability is decimated, but these groups are building up their own capabilities and they're still reading from the al-Qaeda narrative. And
the philosophy of al-Shabab, they are for Sharia law.
That's right, in Somalia. And, you know, Somalia is always on the border of being a failed state, and al-Shabab at different times has controlled more than half the country.
What about this Minneapolis connection? What would you make of that?
You know, this starts out with people who are living in a large Somali community in Minneapolis, young people who are hearing the call and internet radicalization, but to them it's a bit of an adventure. I can go back to a country that I left either when I was a very small child or before I was born, and I can fight for, you know, nationalist pride. And when they got there, they found a very different scenario going on. But as we talked about last week again, Omar Hamami, a kid from Alabama, was a big al-Shabab spokesman and recruiter for Americans, and he was killed by the group last week, we believe. So there's still turmoil within the group.
All right, John Miller, thank you, and we will continue to monitor the scene there and certainly update as well.